Welcome to the Deep Dive, and a special hello to everyone tuning in via the DRS Zone network. Today, we're really plunging into the thrilling, sometimes pretty dramatic world of Formula One. Specifically, we're zoning in on Red Bull racing. We've got a whole stack of sources, some really sharp analysis, actually, and we're going to try and unravel these big questions around Christian Horner's departure and maybe even more pressing, the future of their superstar driver, Max Verstappen.
Yeah, it's definitely a complex situation. You've got whispers, strong opinions all over the place shaping the narrative. Yeah. So our mission today really is to cut through some of that noise. Look at the cold, hard facts from the track and explore this strategic chess match happening both on and off the circuit. We'll be looking at performance data, conflicting statements from key people, and all the high-stakes speculation about where, frankly, one of F1's biggest talents might land come 2027.
Okay, let's really dig into this first point then. It's been, exactly 2 months and 1 week since Red Bull officially confirmed Christian Horner was out. That was July 9th. And since then, we've had 4 pretty key races: Belgium, Hungary, Netherlands, and Italy. You'd think with a change that big, right, a major leadership shift, you'd see a clear difference, a turning point. But our sources are suggesting things might not be quite as different as maybe some people in the Red Bull camp want us to believe.
Yeah, what's fascinating is looking at that immediate post-Horner performance. While some inside the team might be sort of pumping their chest about recent successes, if you look really closely at the actual results, the pattern for Red Bull and Max Verstappen looks remarkably consistent with how the season started. It's almost like the underlying dynamics haven't really shifted that much.
Okay, so let's walk through those 4 races quickly. What do they actually tell us?
Right, so first up, the Belgian Grand Prix. Verstappen won the sprint race, which was good. Showcased, good car config, top speed, plus his own skill, obviously.
But Sunday was different.
Exactly. On Sunday, the main race, the word is Red Bull, didn't get the configuration right. And that led to Verstappen finishing 4th. So 12 points, sure. But crucially, he was beaten by McLaren and Leclerc. Not exactly, dominant.
And then Hungary. That seemed like a real outlier.
Oh, Hungary, yeah. That was arguably Red Bull's worst Grand Prix of the entire season. Seriously. Verstappen finished a shocking 9th. He was behind an Aston Martin, a Sauber, even a Racing Bulls car. For Verstappen and Red Bull, 9th is, it's practically unheard of. There's a lot of questions that weekend.
Okay, then Zandvoort, the Dutch Grand Prix.
He got 2nd place there, yeah. But our sources highlight he was far from McLaren. And he only actually got P2 because Lando Norris had that mechanical issue. So again, not pure outright pace leading the way.
Right, context is key there. And finally, Monza, Italy. That looked better.
Monza was definitely a strong performance, yeah. Verstappen took pole and the victory. But, and this is important, Monza is a circuit that really seemed to suit Red Bull. It played right to the car's known strengths.
So if we pull back, what's the main takeaway here for us listening? Despite this huge leadership change, the actual on-track performance in these races seems, pretty consistent with earlier patterns.
That's exactly it. It suggests the team's underlying challenges and its strengths, they run much deeper than just who's sitting in the team principal's chair, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. The analysis really does point to that. When a circuit suits the car, Verstappen's right there fighting for the win. But when it doesn't suit the car, he struggles. And that just mirrors races earlier in the season, doesn't it?
Precisely. You had Japan and Imola where he won, but then Australia, China, Saudi Arabia, Miami, places where the car wasn't as dominant. The basic characteristic of the car's performance hasn't fundamentally changed, even with the leadership shift. It's quite a striking continuity.
And it wasn't just Max under the microscope after Horner left, was it? There was a lot of talk about Yuki Tsunoda. People thought, new leadership, Lauren Mex is coming in, respected technical guy, engineer background, away from Horner's supposed shadow. Some thought maybe he wasn't getting the best parts under Horner. The expectation was Tsunoda would suddenly flourish. So what happened? Did he?
Well, the expectation was a significant improvement, definitely. Like the whole team dynamic would just lift him up immediately. But the reality, according to what we're seeing, is that Tsunoda's performance has stayed pretty much the same story. He's still not up there with Verstappen. And he's described, quite bluntly actually, as a bit of a disaster in the post-Horner races, which just reinforces the idea that the immediate on-track performance for the wider team didn't drastically change like many hoped or, frankly, predicted.
Okay, so that consistency on track, despite the change at the top, makes Helmut Marko's comments after Monza even more interesting, doesn't it? After that win, Marko, who's obviously a huge figure at Red Bull, publicly said dismissing Christian Horner was the correct decision, full stop. And he backed it up by saying, in the complexity of Formula One, a technical person in charge is probably the best solution because everything is built more from a technical point of view. Pretty strong words, right? Especially given Horner's track record.
Oh, indeed. That statement from Marko is fascinating. But it really makes you, well, critically examine the assumptions behind it. Does F1 history actually support this idea that only technical leaders can achieve the ultimate success? Because, I mean, if you look back, some of the most successful team principals ever, that's just not always the case.
Like who?
Well, Christian Horner himself, for starters, an ex-driver, not an engineer. And he led Red Bull to all its F1 success with Vettel and Verstappen. Then you got Flavio Briatore. By all accounts, he had no idea of technical matters, but look at the success with Benetton and later Renault. Jean Todt, ex-rally driver, led Peugeot in off-road, then took Ferrari to, 5 straight championships? And more recently, Toto Wolff, ex-Austrian driver, not an engineer, guided Mercedes to that incredible run of 8 consecutive constructors' titles.
Right. So the evidence clearly suggests a deep technical background isn't the only way to lead an F1 team. It makes you question Marko's whole point, doesn't it? Like, maybe that focus on technical leadership is a convenient narrative, perhaps diverting attention.
It does seem that way. Those examples are incredibly compelling.
But hang on, even for a non-technical principal, surely they still need a deep understanding of the engineering side, or at least have brilliant technical people around them. Can it ever be just about managing a group in F1?
That's a fair point, and it raises the crucial question. If it wasn't a lack of technical expertise with Horner, then what does make a truly effective team principal in modern F1? Our source suggests the most critical skill when you're managing over 1,000 people is the ability to manage a group, to leave egos aside, and crucially ensure the whole team pulls in the same direction. And this was reportedly not happening with Christian Horner after that whole internal investigation story broke, the Horner case, as it's called. And then you had the brain drain, as our sources described it, starting. People like Adrian Newey leaving, Rob Marshall, key figures. So while Marko is criticizing Horner on seemingly technical grounds, this deeper analysis points towards issues of human management, team cohesion. That's the core problem, a very different skill set.
Okay, and adding another layer here. Max Verstappen himself seems to be echoing Marko's technical line. After Monza, he said, until now, we've had many races where we've been going back and forth with the car setup, quite extreme changes, which demonstrates that we didn't have control, we didn't understand well what to do. And then he praised Laurent Mexis, saying his engineering background means he asks the correct questions to the engineers, common sense questions.
Yeah, that alignment from Verstappen is significant. You can see why he'd want to praise the new leadership naturally. However, it also invites a bit of skepticism, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You might wonder, if Red Bull won so many titles with Horner in charge, was he really incapable of asking common sense questions?
Good point.
And if Mexis is asking all the correct questions now, bringing such clarity, well, how do you explain that dreadful 9th place in Hungary behind teams like Aston Martin and Sauber? It just suggests a reality that's maybe a bit more nuanced than a simple technical deficiency under Horner. Perhaps a convenient narrative being pushed post-Horner to shape perception.
Right. So with Red Bull's internal story now focused on technical leadership, this brings us neatly to the biggest question mark over the team. Max Verstappen's future, Helmut Marko, he's suddenly become incredibly optimistic for the rest of the season, suggesting with the speed we demonstrated at Monza, we would be at the front on almost all circuits. He even said, the championship is over, but a few more victories would be nice.
That sounds like, well, an awful lot of confidence from one good race on a track that suited them. What's really going on there?
Well, this surge of optimism and all the public praise for the new technical leadership, it isn't just about celebrating a win, I don't think. It strikes me as a carefully constructed part of a bigger Red Bull strategy. The report suggests they are really trying hard to convince Verstappen that there's no better place beyond Red Bull. And that's particularly relevant because his contract runs until 2027.
Yeah.
And the rumors about his future are just, well, intense.
And the big one is Mercedes, right? The Mercedes factor. Exactly. That's a huge variable here. Lots of buzz in the paddock, as you know, that Mercedes could really dominate in 2026 with the new engine regs like they did back in 2014. But here's the twist, potentially. If Mercedes does become overwhelmingly dominant, they might not actually need Verstappen to win.
Interesting. Explain that.
Well, it's a bit like McLaren right now, isn't it? They're succeeding with a strong car, winning races, arguably without needing the absolute best driver on the grid to do it. If Mercedes gets that kind of car advantage, they might decide they can win without Max. If they close that door, then Max has a really crucial decision on his hands about his next move.
That is a fascinating twist. Mercedes potentially not needing Verstappen. But couldn't you argue that a driver like Max, even in a dominant car, brings that extra edge, that mental strength? Is it just about the machine at that level?
It's a valid point, definitely. A driver of Verstappen's caliber is always an asset, no question. But in F1, sometimes a dominant car can make a very good driver look absolutely legendary. If Mercedes hits that sweet spot, the tiny extra gain from Verstappen might not justify the, let's face it, immense cost or the potential internal disruption of bringing him in. It's a cold calculation in a very high-stakes sport.
Okay, so if Mercedes isn't a guaranteed option, what about other places for Max if he does decide to leave Red Bull?
Well, there's Ferrari, obviously. Always Ferrari. But they're rumored to be in, quote, chaos. There's talk of a brain drain there, too, and their new engine concept is apparently extreme but lacks reliability.
Chaos and unreliability at Ferrari. Sounds familiar, almost. Not exactly pulling him in, is it?
Doesn't sound like it. But despite all that, Giancarlo Minardi claimed Ferrari is seriously interested. He said they've taken steps towards Verstappen, and the idea of him replacing Hamilton there, Minardi called it potentially brutal in terms of impact.
Wow. Okay, who else?
Then you have Aston Martin, teaming up with Honda. That's seen as a big unknown. Hopes for improvement? Sure, but zero guarantees. Audi. Well, the comments about their prospects are not very good, apparently. Makes them seem like a long shot right now. And even Red Bull's own engine project, the Red Bull Powertrains unit for 2026. The rumors for next year are apparently not very encouraging. So you see, the landscape outside Red Bull has its own pretty significant uncertainties and potential problems.
It really does sound like a massive gamble for Verstappen, whichever way he turns. Our sources mentioned a parallel to Fernando Alonso's move in 2014, a cautionary tale.
Precisely. It's a really good comparison, actually. Back in 2014, Ferrari was struggling. Mercedes was starting its dominance. Alonso made that strategic leap from Ferrari to McLaren Honda. He bought into their innovative concept, hoping to challenge Mercedes. And it turned out to be a total failure, a completely wasted period in his prime, really. Meanwhile, Ferrari actually improved later on. So Red Bull's message to Verstappen seems to be implicitly, look, don't leave. You know us. We know how to win titles together. Those promises from others, they could just be empty words.
And Max himself has been pretty clear, hasn't he?
Oh, yeah. He's made it very clear. He has no need to go to Ferrari for its history or mystique. He doesn't care about that. He will only go somewhere if they can give him a car to win, period. And that makes the whole situation incredibly complicated for any team trying to lure him away. They can't just offer heritage or money. They have to offer a guaranteed championship contender.
So, wrapping this up, what does all this mean for you, the listener? It means the world of F1 isn't just about lap times and pit stops, is it? It's this high-stakes game of psychology, perception, future planning. Red Bull is clearly making a very strong play right now to keep their star driver. They're doing it amidst the shifting landscape of power and potential in the sport. Every statement, every strategic move seems part of this bigger chess game.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, nobody truly knows where Max Verstappen will end up driving in 2027 or even 2026, perhaps. But this deep dive really reveals that Red Bull's current narrative, from the leadership changes to this renewed optimism, and it feels like a carefully constructed effort. An effort to convince him that even if Mercedes doesn't come knocking with an offer he can't refuse, Red Bull remains the best place to fight for championships. Yeah. And maybe the provocative thought to leave you with is this. In the absolutely cutthroat world of Formula One, how much does a driver's loyalty to a known quantity, a team they've won with, how much does that truly weigh against the sheer allure of a potentially dominant but ultimately unproven future elsewhere?
Something definitely to mull over as the season and indeed the next couple of seasons progress.